We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
And welcome back to episode 15 of the JEB Board podcast. As you can probably tell, I'm not in a good mood, and you guys will figure out why here soon, everybody listening at home. Back with me, we got the whole crew this week. We have Andy Gator, Nick Noah. We've got Cheese Brain Kyle Overhart. We've got the poster boy from Mustache Wax, Caleb Naylor. And then we've got BB, which stands for Bama's burner in terms of their burner account. So, guys, how do we feel after this week of college football?
Angry.
I think it got disowned by the Alabama fan base.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Kyle, quick question. What do you think about Alvin Kamara's cleats and Caleb's background right there?
They're about as ugly as Caleb is, to be honest with you, Greg.
I don't give a damn what you say about the stupid cleats right behind my head, you little winter gnome.
I know.
Jesus.
Winter gnome. That's a derogatory statement.
They already have a season, Caleb. I'll let you pick whatever picture you want.
Thank you.
But the
As
cleats are
is
fucking
my
great.
right.
You know
I just
who
wanna
didn't have a
say-
shit season?
Hell yeah. It's my
Florida State?
background.
Am I correct?
Don't wait.
Oh, okay,
Wait,
sorry.
wait,
Yep.
hold off for like 7 minutes. Let's get through the highlights, and then we'll get into that.
I was just seeing if I could finish about 6 or 7 of these Andy Gators before we start talking about it, because my arguments will be different.
I am drunken with rage.
Here we go.
Okay, yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
That there's Florida State watching the selection show.
No, that was Michigan watching the selection show.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh no. But all right, well, let's get into highlights. Let's talk about the conference championship games. Well, there was I guess 2 good games, if you want to call them competitive. There's 2 competitive games, and then the other 3 major games. And then we can also go to our group of 5 correspondent who disappeared for a second, BB, about all the rest of the conference games. But obviously, big one, Bama and Georgia. It was pretty competitive for the most part. I would say. I wouldn't say that it was an absolute blowout. Bama came away in the last, 6 minutes or so. That's when they scored their touchdown and they kind of go up. The other competitive game was Louisville and Florida State. Competitive on the opposite side of the spectrum, really, for why it was competitive. Just an ugly game to watch. Michigan and Iowa, what else did we expect? Well, and then you got the Pac-12 game. I'm sorry, I completely forgot about the Pac-12 game, which was a back and forth effort. I mean, Washington going up early.
Pretty much the same as the first one.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Washington going up early, Oregon coming back, and then Washington taking the cake. And then finally, who am I missing? Big 12. Oh, yeah, Texas Skull Dragon, Oklahoma State. So, guys, what are your opinions on the conference games themselves?
I would like to open up with, talking about that Alabama-Georgia game. I felt really good about what I was saying last week about the reason why we saw a lackluster Alabama performance in the Iron Bowl was because they were already kind of looking towards Georgia, and I think they were already game prepping by then. And the way that they played against Georgia kind of proved that in my mind. It was a very competitive football game. You saw Georgia feel the pressure and then fold. But it doesn't matter how dominant you are the entire year. It's whenever you get tested, it's do you crack under that pressure? And unfortunately, Georgia wasn't able to come out with the win. Fortunately for Georgia, fortunately for Alabama, and Alabama shook up the entire college football playoff. But we'll talk about that later.
Well, I
Great
feel like
idea.
that game reminded me a lot of the 2021 SEC championship when Georgia lost to Bama. And because, yes, it was a 3-point game to end this year, but it felt like it was a little bit further apart based on the way they were playing. It felt like a 14-point win for Bama. Again, though, it just had a very eerie feeling. Like it's very similar to the 2021 SEC championship, but obviously we won't get that rematch. So, but I mean, yeah, that's Georgia. I will say, the FSU Louisville game, again, I know we're going to get into FSU later, but it really kind of showed how good FSU's defense has gotten.
Absolutely.
Because FSU's defense in the past years has been rough. But Louisville, I mean, they hung on Notre Dame. They hung on who else did they? Well, I know they had the Kentucky loss, but Louisville is a good team. Louisville has a good offense. Louisville was fully healthy. And again, top 15 team, and really just showed that FSU does have an elite defense.
Yeah, so Nick, just to kind of hammer down your point there, Louisville beat Duke 23-0, shut them out, and hung up 23 points on them. And the big win, you did specify, that was Notre Dame with a final score of 33-20 against Notre Dame when Notre Dame was hot.
Well, think about it too. They held LSU to only 24 points, and LSU is one of the hottest team offenses in the country.
Well, you could argue they were when FSU played them. It was the first game of the season. They weren't really clicking. I think after that game, they
well, I mean, you got to think though. Most of the starters were returning from last year, so you would think they would be better from the beginning of last year.
LSU.
LSU. And that's my opinion because again, they're all returning.
I was just saying, like they didn't look that great at FSU, but then when they played Bama, they looked like the hottest team in football.
I agree.
I will say
because they were the hottest offense in football. That's for damn sure.
So Dallas Turner said, "Nuh-uh."
I will say this about Texas though. They seem to always show up in the big games, but when they play mediocrity teams, they don't show up. And this is another example of that, where they come into this, Big 12 and they just dominate. And then you look at like the past game against Alabama, big game vibes. They come in and they do what they're supposed to, but then they play games like TCU and they win by 6, and they're so up and down. And I wonder when you go into the playoffs with a very good Washington team, if they're going to show up or not.
Yes, they will.
So, BB, back to your point about LSU. After that Florida State game, they did not score under 30 points except when they played Alabama.
Yeah.
And that was because Dallas Turner rock bottomed Jaden Daniels and gave him a concussion and possibly broke his jaw. So, yeah, hottest offense in college football. Yeah, so I guess that moves on into our lowlights. The first lowlight, we're going to talk about the NFL injuries a little bit, specifically the injuries that have plagued Nick and his sleeper team this year.
Stupid. So it's not even the injuries this year. It's the injuries in the last couple of weeks. Because, God, our Lord in heaven, has it out for me because I don't even get a shot. I made the playoffs for Sleeper. This is our dynasty league. And I'm the 6th seed, so I barely got in, and I'm playing the 2nd seed. And so I've been hot. And again, I've been hot in Sleeper. And then the week that we come back to, it's my bye week. So who's all on bye? Gus Edwards, Josh Jacobs, Stephon Diggs, and Jordan Poyer. Okay, not good. That's 4 starters. And then on my IR, I've got Joe Burrow, of course, and Hufanga, who were starters. And then 2 of my other starters for the week that were filling in for my previous starters was Tank Dell, who's been on an incredible stretch, and Brian Robinson, who both left the game. Tank Dell did not record a stat because he broke his leg, And then you had Brian Robinson go out on concussion with only 5 points in the second quarter. So yeah, that's 8 starters that I lost for the first playoff week. So yeah, it's stupid.
And then Derek Carr got hurt too.
Yeah,
Fuck
he took a hard lick. Saints were trying
the
to mount a
Saints'
comeback
odds.
against the Lions, but honestly, it's just been that's the highlight of the Saints' season at this point. Is it doesn't matter if Carr's healthy or not, they're gonna play just well enough to lose the game still. So it's with Carr's injury, he's out on concussion protocol, and I don't know. I'm sure you guys don't frequent the post-game coaching interviews with the media, but they were grilling Dennis Allen on Derek Carr. They were saying, at this point, do you guys just need to sit him? Because I mean, I will say, regardless of how he plays, the dude's getting battered every single game, and he never missed any time, even with that AC joint sprain. Like, well, no, he did miss that 1 week with Tampa Bay, but. Or no, he didn't even miss that week. So,
I saw somebody said this. They put a triple double on on Derek Carr because it was concussion, shoulder, and back.
Yeah. But Dennis Allen, it looked like a deer in headlights with all these questions being like, "Are you guys playing an injured player right now?" Like, is he, because he's not missed any time, which respect to him for having the willpower, but damn it, sit out, get better, and put your team in a position to play better. Like,
they need to start Taysom Hill at quarterback and put JEB at tight end.
I'm down. I'm here for it.
I think if Nick had it his way, JEB would be returning punts.
That would be
funny.
BB and Arthur Smith.
As long as Michael Thomas is in a grave, I'm cool.
Good God, Nick.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we get to the fun part of the show, where it's the second low light. And we're going to talk about the College Football Playoff Committee decisions. And if you guys don't mind, I don't really give a shit going first. So, obviously, we saw that it's Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama. Okay. The committee got one thing right, and it was putting Texas over Alabama in terms of ranking. Because if they would not have done that, the point of a head-to-head win would have been all for naught. And why the would teams even play each other nowadays? And what would it matter? So that's besides Washington and Michigan. That's what they got right. Washington, Michigan, the order. But the glaring thing that they got wrong is the fact that Florida State's not in. And I know this is going to be controversial. I know a lot of people listening right now are going to say, oh God, it's an Auburn fan. He's sitting there. I honestly don't give a shit. Like, I don't hate Bama. I hate the Bama fans with the logic saying we're Bama, we should be in, which is basically what we're getting right now. So I'm going to break it down and explain to y'all and everybody listening to this why Florida State should have got in instead of Alabama. Let's look at records. Number one, obviously, Florida State was undefeated, and Bama had one loss. They were both conference champions of their respective conferences. Okay, but then we talk about, let's look at the strength of conference. To a point that BB made earlier, which it's kind of fair, not really fair. The ACC went 6-4 against the SEC this year. And like we've talked about all year on this podcast, the SEC has a down year this year. The SEC overall, in terms of talent and in terms of winning capabilities, is down this year. When your second best team in the SEC East is Missouri and your second best in the SEC West is the forever 10-2 or 9-3 Ole Miss Rebels, that kind of tells you something there. So now let's look at the wins. They have a shared win against LSU. Okay, Florida State won at the beginning of the year. They won 45-24, whatever the score was, right? Bama turned around 42-28, won against LSU. But the big factor there was that, again, Dallas Turner rock-bottomed Jaden Daniels at the beginning of the fourth quarter and basically shut the game down. Their best player was gone. So there's number one. Number two, let's look at the strength of record or strength of conference or Bama's wins this year. Okay, let's look at Bama's wins this year. Let's look at their wins against Texas A&M, which was a one-possession game. Let's look at their record against Arkansas, a one-possession game, which, if I'm not mistaken, was in Tuscaloosa. Am I wrong?
Correct.
Okay, now let's look at their win against Auburn. Oh, it's the Iron Bowl. It doesn't matter. They had to win on a miracle pass by Jalen Milroe and Isaiah Bond. Great play nonetheless. One possession game. And then finally, let's look at their third game of the season when they couldn't figure out who they wanted at that quarterback, USF, that they won in a 1 to 2 possession game. There's Bama's wins. Oh, well, they beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss doesn't have a defense. We've seen that this year. So if you want to talk about Bama's wins, there's the wins that I want to talk about. And then we get into let me talk about this right quick. Stat we saw earlier. Florida State's quarterbacks versus Michigan's quarterback the past 3 weeks, almost equivalent in terms of yards and more touchdowns. Then we're talking about FSU's second string and third string. And that's the reason they don't get in, because Jordan Travis, their Heisman Trophy winner quarterback, is not able to play. They shouldn't be penalized because one guy played, because it takes a whole team. They have an elite defense. I don't give a shit what anybody else says. Florida State has an elite defense. They do. They still have Keon Coleman,
Johnny Wilson,
Kyle, a 6'7" tight end, Kyle Wilson. But then we get into the hypotheticals. Oh, well, what if Florida State and Bama played right now? Who would win? Who knows? It's a hypothetical. It's a question. It's not a question that can be answered because it didn't happen. You know what can be answered? Texas and Alabama. You know what can be answered? The record. That can be answered. So what I'm getting to is this. If the jerseys were swapped, or you didn't know which team was which, and you saw that they were both conference champions, you looked at the record, you looked at the wins, because let's talk about the quality wins. Alabama beat the number 1 team in the nation. That's great. That's great. They also beat LSU, who's ranked 13th. Okay, cool. Louisville has beat the number 13 and number 14 teams. They beat 2 top 25 opponents. I think Bama has one more win, Ole Miss, against a top 25 opponent. So you don't know who's who. You look at it. Huh?
Nope. FSU has 25 wins. They beat Duke when they were 20th. Sorry, Grayson.
Okay. So if we take the jerseys away, look at the resumes, even throw the hurt quarterback on there, who gets in? I don't think we're looking at this I think that we're looking at this from a biased opinion. Just because, and I'll be honest, like me being a conspiracy theorist like I am, like Earth's flat, time's a human construct, I think Kyle's got a point in saying that a lot of it's about the money. Alabama's going to bring in a lot more money than Florida State is. Let's be honest. Let's be real. So why not, in the last series or last year of the 4-team playoff, let's generate as much money as we can? Because if we're going off the best 4 teams, like we want to talk about best and deserving. Okay, let's talk about that real quick. The most deserving teams would be Michigan, Washington, Florida State at 3, and then you have Texas and Alabama. Texas should get in because of the head-to-head win. But if we're talking the best teams, then the regular season, let's not play a game. Let's go based off recruiting classes. And the best 4 teams this year should have been Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama.
Yep.
And can I take it from here, Grayson? So, Grayson, I concur with everything you said, especially whenever you were making the point about if the jerseys were swapped or if we couldn't identify them with either of their brands, which team gets in just based on record, and even the quarterback situation, which is completely negligible. And I think the answer is Florida State. I honestly think the answer is Florida State. If you look at the 2023 College Football Power Index, based on strength of record, because a lot of the arguments I've heard is, oh, well, FSU had a joke schedule. FSU had a joke schedule. Well, sure, strength of schedule, maybe you can argue that, but look at strength of record. And for those that do not know, the definition of strength of record is strength of record rank. Reflects chance that an average top 25 team would have the team's record or better given the schedule. So, Florida State ranks number 3. But do you want to know who ranks number 4? Alabama. So based on strength of record, there's not much distinction between them to warrant leaving Alabama out, to warrant leaving FSU out of there. So that's strength of record for everybody that wants to talk about strength of schedule. So, and if you just to hammer down a little bit more on what Grayson was saying on Tate Rodemaker. So Tate Rodemaker missed the championship game. I believe he was in concussion protocol, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But in the time before he got injured in the Florida game, Tate Rodemaker is 510 yards on the season with 5 touchdowns, and he only started 2 games.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And he's back. He's back by the time the playoffs start.
Yeah, and now he's back. So, we're not talking about we're not talking about having a complete wimp at quarterback here. We're talking about a guy that was able to put them in a position to win games. Granted, University of North Alabama is a game they should have won and did win, but to play a shootout game against Florida, at Florida in a heavy rivalry game, and he got injured, but even before he got injured, he threw for 134 yards and in that game alone. So I feel like he was a capable quarterback. So this is my final takeaway. Each one of these 4 teams, Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama, in the top 4 going into the college football playoff, all deserve to be there. But Florida State earned their right to be there. And having an undefeated team left out, given these circumstances, just because the top team in the nation got beat by Alabama when Alabama has 1 loss. And to Grayson's point, you can argue that all the counterpoints against Florida State being in are completely negligible. But when it comes to what's left for Florida State, they play Georgia next in the Orange Bowl. They play Georgia in the Orange Bowl. I will be rooting for Florida State so damn hard because I can't think of a better way for the 4-team college football playoff to end than for Florida State to beat what was just last week the number 1 team in the nation. And Washington, they could lose out. They could lose to Texas or Michigan. So it's likely that they'll lose. Liberty's likely going to lose. I can't even remember who they're playing, but when I was looking at it, they're a 16-point underdog. Oregon. They're a 16-point underdog to Oregon. So you got Washington, who's likely going to lose. You got Liberty that's likely going to lose, which means that the only undefeated team in the top 25 after the year is done will be Florida State, who got completely left out of the national championship conversation. And I think that's unacceptable.
As a diehard football fan, I hate it. But as a casual football fan, do we really want to see Michigan versus Iowa 2.0?
Yes.
Well, Florida State earned their right to get boat raced in the college football playoff.
Florida State has a better offense than Iowa with their second string quarterback.
So there is an argument to make between, again, who's the best teams and who's the most deserving teams. There is. I'm leaning more towards the side of who is the most deserving, because at the end of the day, as I said, if it's the best teams, why the fuck are we playing a regular season? Who gives a? Let's see who has the most 5 stars, the most 4 stars. Let's see who get those recruits, and then after that's over with, let's throw them into the playoff. No regular season, no casual games. We'll just off and let them go play. Let the big dogs go play.
No, I agree with you. I was just being the devil's advocate. The other side.
Well, going off these group of 5s, Alabama had 3 group of 5 opponents. Florida State only had 2.
Only had 1.
No. Chattanooga.
That's not
FSU.
a group of 5 school, you idiot.
Well, that's even worse then.
I mean, I'm not.
Chattanooga's not a group of 5 school.
Chattanooga? No, they're FCS, brother.
They're FCS.
Oh, that's even Worse.
Mhm. I think the only group of 5 school they played was South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me they played 2 FCS schools?
What's
They
the
played Middle
non-con?
Tennessee the very beginning, and then they
Middle
played
Tennessee is a group of
Chattanooga,
5 school.
and they're yeah,
They played 2.
yeah. It
group of
was
5
still
schools,
two
FCS
two
school.
group of 5. Why are we arguing about this? This isn't.
Because Florida State only played 2 non-Power 5 schools.
Yeah,
If we're
one
going
was
to go back
Division
on
2
our
school.
strength of schedule here.
Well, I've talked about it, the SEC bias, because they're essentially saying again all of the SEC wins, the 3-point win against Arkansas, the 1 possession win against Texas A&M. They're saying that's better than Florida State beating Clemson, beating Virginia Tech. That's essentially what they're saying in this, because
You know what I whip on seeing though is like, you know how basketball has the ACC SEC challenge where they like group them by
Yes.
RPI rankings. I think they should do that for football. Because that way, because like I was saying earlier, like I don't think like Georgia beating Georgia Tech should count as a head to head when one opponent is like superiorly inferior or inferior to the other. Now, if Vandy and Georgia Tech play, then you can use that as I think you can use that as a fair comparison for conferences.
So,
well,
go ahead, Nick.
I'm getting kind of back onto this, well, actually, I want to close up the argument because mine's not really for either side. It's just an interesting little aspect.
Well, I got a thing. Is how are you going to punish Florida State? They were at number 4 in the country. They beat a top 15 team, and then you drop them out of the.
No, I agree. I think by the base on their logic that they used for this past week, they should have dropped Florida State like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know,
As
it
soon
makes
as
no
Jordan
sense to
Travis
punish
got
them
injured.
last week. We didn't punish them when it happened.
Because the reality is, Florida State should be number 3 above Texas.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, agreed.
I think we're all in agreement.
Yes.
We are.
Yeah.
All right.
100%.
Oh, hey,
All right.
Does anybody else have something to say before I get into this?
No.
Yeah, the FSU is like a
All right, so shut up. So the night of the games, when they were all playing, they were still playing. Kirk Herbstreit had like his little ESPN background.
I know you're going
Had
with this.
all 4 in a row. It was it was who was it? It was Michigan.
Wisconsin.
It was
Washington.
no, not Wisconsin. It was Michigan. It was Washington. It was Florida State at the little 4 spot, and these are all helmets. And then who was it? Texas. After the games, before anything ever got released, before they did the whole live reaction of the committee show, they had changed to Florida State out and Alabama in. They had swapped places before any of this happened. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that's something that, right after the games, the same night, not even like, again, this was way before the committee sat down and said, hey, this is our top 4. They changed it. And I don't think he would think about it being noticed. But again, I'm just saying it's strange talking about conspiracy theories and things. It's very strange. It's weird. It's a not a great look that it changes. Just so happens you predict the top 4 before it comes out by moving around some helmets, and it's just so happens in that exact order.
And one thing, Nick, to your point, who does Kirk Herbstreit work for?
ESPN.
Who has the exclusive broadcasting rights for all college football playoff games?
ESPN.
Exactly.
MSNBC.
So, and that's why, and because
Fox
this is something I've
News.
thought about too, because with those exclusive broadcasting rights belonging to ESPN, you're not hearing hardly anyone on ESPN criticize this. In fact, they have Kirk Herbstreit going out there and trying to sell it. Now, sell it hard too. And the reason is because they have to sell it, because this is how they stand to make more money off of it. If they try to criticize it, then you're going to have a part of the, audience that's going to tune out, boycotting the games. So, it's to their disadvantage to criticize what the playoff committee puts together. And there's just too much money to be made by these college football playoff games. And I hope to God this 12-team playoff doesn't stay with exclusive broadcasting rights, because I feel like that's going to end up being corrupt, and if it's not already corrupt.
Well, and the thing is too is that Kirk Herbstreit also put out a tweet back in October of this year and said, why is there so much arguing and blah 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 and hypotheticals? Just win out. Well, Florida State won out.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was in 2014.
No, there was another
it was
one
this year.
There was
no.
Yeah, there was another. Yeah, it was this
FSU
year.
fans are digging.
Oh,
Did you know the AD, obviously the AD came out with it. He just sent something to the US Senate about this. Like it is getting very, like, they are pissed. Rightfully so. To be fair, I've seen it happen as an Auburn fan, 2004 with the BCS. I mean, it happened then. TCU was another example in 2014. Like, this isn't the first time this has happened, but it's the first time it's happened in the playoff, which the whole point of the playoff was to eliminate this problem.
I mean, I feel like they're just lucky that this happened now and not the past 10 years. I mean, it was always a scenario where an undefeated group of Power 5 teams going to get left out.
Yeah, and then one got left out, and then two one-loss Power 5 champions got in.
Yeah, I would be more understanding if they were all undefeated, but they're not.
So I think the only people that truly agree, because again, like, do I personally believe that Alabama Michigan is a better matchup? Yes, I do, but I think Florida State deserves it. Florida State absolutely deserves it. They've earned it. There's nothing they have done wrong to not get this spot. This is the whole point of the playoffs, is for them to get this spot. What are they supposed to do? Win prettier? No, because Alabama didn't win prettier. So again, the only people that are in agreement with this are Alabama fans. SEC fans are pissed. Especially ACC and FSU fans are pissed. But literally the only people that agree with this move is ESPN anchors and Alabama fans.
And T-shirt fans specifically.
Yeah, you may lying. It kills me because every year the criteria changes. Last year the committee comes out and says division championships shouldn't affect the teams. Okay, then why did Georgia drop? We're going off last year. Why did Georgia drop out of top 4? And why are we always changing the criteria? Why did they not come out with, this is what you need, this is what we want? And then this year, when that list came out of what they were looking for, now they add at the bottom injured players that could affect the game. That has never been on that graph before.
Well, so here's the thing. I know part of the reason why they want to do the committee was to have the eye test, right? And that way you could add into the factors that a computer can't see, right? And as we saw, I believe it was BB that sent in our group earlier. If it was, if we're going off,
I don't know the validity to that. That could have been just made up.
Well, if there was a hypothetical BCS computed college football playoff, and don't know if it's true or not, but if it is true, the team that got left out was Texas. So it was Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Bama, and then Texas, who beat Bama, which again would make sense. But that's where the eye test comes in, right? But I'm gonna say this, and I may be way out of pocket here. I think it may get to a point where the eye test is relied on a little too much.
Yeah,
like you can. It's we can see that those 4 teams are the best based on those 3 or 4 games they played and won, right? But those 3 or 4 teams could be 10-2, 11-1, and not factor in the things that at the end of the day actually matter, such as wins, head-to-head records. It's pathetic. It's so stupid.
But also, I feel like no matter which route you go, there's always going to be like a negative effect. Like you go to the BCS, right? The BCS records that had Texas, Alabama in over Texas. You did it that way, then it's not going to take into account to the head and head. But on the other side, if you use like actual computer rankings, it takes all the bias out.
Well, at the end of the day,
I don't think there's no perfect way of deciding 4 teams out of 160.
Well,
go ahead, Grayson.
Well, I was just going to say, well, the answer to that is what they're doing next year with the 12 team, because nobody's going to argue that the 13 team should be in over the 12 team. When it gets to that point, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, but when you have the top 4 teams, that's out of, like you just said, 150 teams or whatever. Yeah, I mean, there may be some one-loss teams here and there, but at least the defending ACC undefeated champions not left out.
Yeah, but also
the only people that are going to be left out are more than likely going to be probably some 2 or 3 losses. No, they're not. They're going to be 2 or 3 losses.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's cool, man. So it's going to be these 2 or 3 lost teams, and then it's going to be some of the group of 5 teams that are like 1 loss, like a Tulane kind of thing that's going to be left out. Those are going to be the ones that are pissed. But again, the major issues that most college football fans have and college football programs have with, again, an undefeated conference champion, a Power 5 conference champion undefeated, they're not getting left out anymore. It's going to be the people that, oh, well, we didn't get in. Well, you should have won, because you obviously have losses. There's not going to be 12 undefeated teams that are going to be sitting there. It's going to be these anywhere from 1 to 3 losses teams that are going into the playoffs now.
The people that are going to be left out is going to be your divisional runner-ups, like your SEC West runner-up, or potentially your SEC East runner-up, or your 3rd or 4th place team in the Big Ten.
Congrats, Ole Miss. You'll have a shot next year.
But can we move on?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Well, that moves us on into our uncivil debate.
Let's be pretty civil.
Yeah. This week we're going to do the best quarterback in the transfer portal so far. We've got a lot of names that have come out so far that are transferring. Guys like guys we didn't name, I guess, is DJ Uwangalele, KJ Jefferson. Guys like that have come out. So we're going to talk about who we think is the best quarterback that is transferring so far. And let's start off with BB. BB, who is your best quarterback in the transfer portal?
My best quarterback in the transfer portal is Will Rogers. Coming in this year, I mean, everybody thought he was going to be the best quarterback in the SEC, but the new Mississippi State coach said otherwise. Was not playing to his strengths. Before it just came out, like right when I said I was going to take him, I mentioned that Washington would be a great place for him to transfer to. And as soon as I said that, there was like rumors of him heading that way. And honestly, I think we could have a potential Heisman winner in that offense with him. He is probably the purest SEC passer or not this year, but over the past 4 years. So I think that'd be pretty good. And he might actually win something. He's a decent guy from what I can tell.
And I would also tack onto that, BB. He's really tough. Like I've seen Will Rogers take some really hard hits. I got to watch him at Alabama Mississippi State game about a year or 2 ago, and Alabama had a really good defense that year, so of course Mississippi State was struggling. But Will Rogers, like I liked what I saw on the field. This was back when Mike Leach was there, and I see exactly what you're talking about. Is once he gets plugged into an offense that actually plays to his strengths, he could be a force to be reckoned with.
And I think them drastically changing offensive schemes is why Mississippi State was just so abysmal this year.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. If you look at Mike Leach, when you're his quarterback, he knows
Does a
what he's
lot.
doing. I mean, he's the QB whisperer was his nickname for a reason, and to get him under your program and screw up the system that much, where I mean, he just looked like he was struggling all year. It says a lot about that coaching staff they brought on.
No, if he does go there, if he does go to Washington, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. Let's go to Nick now. Who you got as your best quarterback in the transfer portal so far?
So I've got the vet, Cam Ward. We've talked about him, we talked about him being a Heisman candidate. We've talked him, he's just a great player. Washington State's quarterback. This year he has 3,700 yards passing. He's got 33 total touchdowns. I think it's 8 interceptions or 7 interceptions, whatever. Just a playmaker, a true passer, but he's tough to get those short yardage touchdowns, rushing the ball. And he has 13,000 yards career passing out of 4 years, and he's been a 4-year starter. He was at a JUCO his first 2 years, I believe. Yeah. And so he coming off this year, he's coming as a grad transfer, and so he's going to want to go to one of these programs that all they're missing is a quarterback, because as a grad transfer, he wants to go win something. And so he's not thinking, he said he was entering the transfer portal, but he's also considering the draft. I think he would benefit from going to a little bit of a better team than Washington State. Nothing against them. They're just, they're middle tier. I think if he goes somewhere where he doesn't need developing, he's got all the stuff that he's going to learn. I mean, he bits and pieces there. But again, he's going to come in and want to make an immediate impact to a wide receiver group and a good team. And so he's definitely somebody to watch out for. And all of those stats that I told you about this year, just through 12 games. So he's averaging 311 yards and 3 touchdowns a game.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to Kyle.
Yeah, I got Riley Leonard. I'm gonna say this. Duke was always known as the basketball school, and then whenever they got him in as a quarterback, they became a school that when you go play him, it's not a guaranteed win anymore. And he played a big part in that. This year he got hurt. He only played 5 games in a quarter, but with those 5 games, he threw for 1,100 yards. Last season, he was at 2,900 yards. And he, like I said, he just changed the program into something that's a big deal now, I would say, in the ACC. That it's not just Clemson and Florida State anymore. You can argue Duke's there. I think whenever you do get him with a little more speed, though, like a Ohio State or a Alabama with the receivers, he's going to shine even more. He's tough. He's taken some huge hits because that line just let him down all season, but he's a tough guy. He knows how to play and he knows how to win. And I think whoever gets him, I don't see him as a national championship quarterback, but I do see him as a QB that can get you 10 wins for sure.
Yeah. Now we'll go to Caleb. We'll go to you on your pick really quick.
All right. So mine is what I consider to be like a blue chip college football quarterback, Kyle McCord. I was actually really surprised to hear that Kyle McCord was going to be transferring, but it makes sense considering Ryan Day's attitude towards him after that Michigan loss. I mean, good Lord. Yeah, I get that he kind of, threw away the game, but that's one game. He's been the field general of that offense, and that offense had some great players on it, and I'm sure they could make stuff happen without him, but I think you're an idiot if you think that Kyle McCord didn't have some part to play in that success. So with Kyle McCord's numbers and with Kyle McCord's ability of just, managing that offense, any kind of offense, I really think he kind of gets the pick of the litter wherever he would go. I can't think of a single place where I'm like, that's for sure where he would end up, because I think just about any team would be happy to have him.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that too, it came out today, just side note, that Ohio State's got 7 or 8 4- to 5-star players that are transferring right now.
Mhm.
One of them being, what's his name? Jaden Fleming.
Julian
His name?
Fleming.
Julian
South
Fleming, the
Alabama Jag
the 5-star receiver is leaving as well. So it seems like a mass exodus out of Ohio State, which is not looking good for Ryan Day.
One on third base.
Yeah.
And maybe that, there's something to be said about the players reading the room on Ryan Day, considering, all the discussions about him being fired. Maybe they anticipate him being fired, and that's why they're leaving. I know with Kyle McCord, there's a more particular reason, because Ryan Day actually at a press conference said that he was going to have to reassess every position when they asked if he was going to be starting McCord next season.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you're talking about a guy.
They just said Day.
I mean, yeah, no. That's the more likely scenario, but I'm talking about for all the other mass exodus, like it could be part of it. But you're talking about a quarterback that sat behind Justin Fields and CJ Stroud and earned the spot at Ohio State. You want to tell me that that's not a good quarterback that's going to find a place out there? Not that anybody is, but I just think this may be what actually gets Ryan Day fired.
So I have a feeling that Ryan Day just told him, "Hey, bud, go ahead and jump in that portal. We got somebody else he's gonna want to play." Because you don't see starting quarterbacks of like of like big like blue blood schools transfer unless the coach leaves. And that's the only time we've seen that was with not when they're starting. What?
Nothing.
You're
There's just
looking
a famous Alabama quarterback that went somewhere else. But
Yeah,
it-
because he
didn't
wasn't
start.
starting.
I-
Who?
that statement was based on
Jalen
something I
Hurts.
saw on Twitter by
Oh.
some dude's burner account. But like still, because
No,
when Jalen transferred, the writing was on the wall that he was going to play.
Yeah, I know this podcast isn't a logic-based podcast, and we're not about logic, but I think that logic tracks, BB. I really do. Like if he didn't have any doubts that he wasn't going to be, if he had doubts that all of it was just a bunch of humdrum rumors that he wasn't going to be starting next year, he wouldn't have left.
I disagree. I think we use a lot of logic. I think we use a lot of logic that other people don't
Yeah,
use.
but bad logic doesn't count.
Once again, I
But I'm just
disagree.
saying, like, you don't usually
I think we use great logic that other people don't think of. That's what makes us set apart from everyone else.
well even to Kyle's point. So you've seen 2 quarterbacks from Blue Bloods transfer out that were starters, and one of them left because homeboy went to Hollywood instead of Oklahoma.
I blamed Ohio State's fans. They went out there and they just trashed that kid.
Well, brother, if
hardcore,
you
bro.
can't handle fans and you plan on being in the NFL, you ain't, like I said earlier, you ain't him.
Yeah, but
Well-
dude, that's different. That's different. And let me tell you why that's different. You don't get to pick where you go in the NFL. You give up a lot of stuff to go to any college.
What the
And
hell are you talking about? Of course you get to
No.
pick where you go in the NFL.
Not when you're drafted.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
You
for
can
5
choose not
years
to
you don't.
sign.
Yeah, you can choose not to sign
that's
and hold out.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it,
then
it
We had
happens
this
all the
conversation
time.
about Caleb Williams.
We did.
Yeah, but
It
they have your
happened with
rights and you're
Eli
not
Manning.
playing.
It happened with John
No,
Elway.
literally.
Dan Marino.
That's just
Well, not Dan Marino, but John
90
Elway.
98% of the time you don't have a choice. But when you go to college, you're picking it and you're like, okay, I'm moving away from my family. I'm going here. This is where I'm going to start, honestly, my professional career. And you give up a lot.
If somebody that's built like me is making you a 5-star Power 5 quarterback transfer, you're a bitch.
And you also got to think you're making a lot of money with NIL. Like it's not that they're making
Yeah.
that much of a sacrifice. Like
Yeah.
the family, like I'm getting money.
Well, I'm just saying, you guys aren't really factoring in, like, maybe he has a dream of being like a hometown like realtor or insurance agent. You know, like you guys aren't factoring that in
Well,
either.
that's the track he's going on. If he's letting fans
He's
decide where he's going to transfer.
Yeah, I was your quarterback at Ohio State, and now I'm going to sell you a car. All right. Well, getting into my best quarterback transfer, I'm going with a group of 5 quarterback that's a grad transfer. I'm going Grayson McCall. So fun fact, Grayson McCall got hospitalized this year, so he didn't finish out the season. He took a hard hit and somebody dribbled his head across turf. But he
No.
He definitely getting Auburn now.
So yeah, but that being said, in the past 3 years, he's been floating around 70% completion percentage. In 2020, he had 2,500 yards basically. 2021, he had 2,800, and 2022, he had 2,700. So he is a 10,000 yard passer. That 2020 through 2022, those 3 years, he had,
the Chadwell years.
Hey, he had 26 touchdowns, 27 touchdowns, and 24 touchdowns with 3 interceptions, and 2 interceptions. So that being said, he was on a good track for yards this year. He had 1,900 already so far, but he did have only 10 touchdowns with 6 interceptions. So wasn't looking absolutely great for him his senior year, but I think he would be a good addition to a team that needs a quarterback for 1 year. And maybe they've got a young receiving core or a lot of good receiving recruits coming in, and they just need him for 1 year until Tim Tebow 2.0 comes and takes over the SEC by storm. Just saying, Grace McCall going to Auburn.
If he couldn't get in Auburn last year, I don't think his brain's.
He's a grad transfer. It does not matter about grades anymore. That's the thing. No, you can be as
he's
as
agreed,
you want.
buddy.
Well, can he get in grad school at Auburn?
Yeah,
Well, you
ultra
don't-
science.
I'm pretty sure to be.
Oh, bad. I'm sorry, guys.
Grayson McCall.
Okay, thank you, Caleb, for making me look.
Oh, all right. We're getting out of that. All right.
I'm
going to college.
surprised, real quick. I'm surprised nobody said Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma.
I don't think he's that good.
He had 42 touchdowns this year.
I don't think he's that good.
All right. I was just curious because he had 42 touchdowns this year.
I don't think he's that good. I don't. I mean, I think 7 of those touchdowns came against the Colorado School for the Mines back in week 2 when they beat somebody 73-0. So that's fantastic.
Who are you talking
I
about?
think, I think
Dylan-
The quarterback
Dylan
for
Gabriel.
Oklahoma.
Oh,
Big
yeah.
I was
just
He's
curious.
going to group of 5.
Oh, he's he's gonna go be successful. He's gonna go beat up on the
No, he's going to USC.
Pee-wee teams.
I guarantee you. Yes, I guarantee you. He's going to follow Caleb Williams and to Lincoln Riley. After Caleb Williams leaves, he's going to go play in there so he can win a Heisman or try to.
Big
Yeah,
12 stats
that's the
don't
winner,
count for
Heisman.
offenses.
Moving on. We're going into college football. We'll go over records real quick. We don't have games this week, but we went 15 of 25 this past week. Kyle is at 43-28. Caleb's at 46-25. Nick is at 50-21. BB is at 46-25. And I am at 53-18. So instead of picking games this week, we're going to pick who we think is the best bowl game announced so far. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with mine, just because I don't think mine is that great, but I think based on, I had to pick a different one than everybody else. My bowl game is going to be the the Pop-Tarts Bowl with NC State versus Kansas State. just a little head-to-head stats here. A regular season, NC State's 9-3, Kansas State's 8-4. They both have losing records against the spread, but they both do have winning records against when they're playing outdoors, which both of their stadiums are outdoors. So, and they've played every single game outdoors. So I don't really know why Bleacher Report has that as a recorded stat. So Kansas State can put up points. They're ranked 10th in the country in points scored, points per game. But NC State is 25th, only allowing 20.2 points per game. So I think it'll be a pretty balanced game. Now, I will say Kansas State puts up some yards. They average 446 yards a game. A lot of that's coming on their rushing attack. I mean, they're 15th in the country with 199.9 yards rushing per game. And
Grayson,
then
you're pissing off all 50 Kansas fans when you keep calling them Kansas State.
what am I supposed to say? The Wildcats? Like, what am I supposed to say?
No, I thought it was the Kansas, not Kansas State.
I'm pretty sure it's Kansas State.
Is it?
Brother, in the Pop-Tarts Bowl in Camping World Stadium in Orlando, it is the NC State Wolfpack versus the Kansas State Wildcats.
Damn, I just pissed off all 75 Kansas State fans.
I'm gonna make that my ringtone for Grayson. The Pop-Tart Bowl.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Kansas State wins. Next. Let's
All
go.
right.
No, let's
go.
Okay, go, Nick. God damn, I hate this episode.
I love it because Lane Kiffin finally gets to the Mercedes-Benz Dome, whatever the you call it, because
Stadium.
he never got to the goddamn SEC championship. But guess what? He gets to go, and he gets to play who else? Penn State, the Ole Miss of fucking Big Ten. They are two trash organizations. Yeah,
Yes.
Penn State, and you've got Ole Miss, who Lane Kiffin can't win shit, but he gets a bowl game. Congrats, buddy, you're here. So this game will stack up well because they're both mediocre top 10 teams. Well, excuse me, 11 at whichever one. ESPN is giving Penn State a 72% chance to win. I kind of want them to, but I think again they both kind of suck. So because they can't win. Ole Miss has lost against Georgia and Alabama. Okay, those are quality losses. So hey, put them in the playoffs.
Oh, you beat me to it.
But all they've beaten is LSU, a 9-3 team. So again, they just had. LSU had a worse defense. Penn State, they've lost to Ohio State and Michigan, put them into, and they beat Iowa. And so two teams that really have not beaten anybody, that have lost who they're supposed to lose to. It's, again, time is, or what's the phrase, tale as old as time? I don't know. I don't watch
Tale as
Disney.
old as time.
I don't know.
But
But
Time is old as tail.
I'm just saying, it stacks up well. That's why it's the best.
Caleb, let's go to his game.
All right, I got the Cotton Bowl with Mizzou and possibly Ryan Day's last game ever coaching Ohio State. They're not going to have Kyle. One thing's for sure, Kyle McCord won't be playing. So I think I like Mizzou in this game. Just because if there was ever a time where a team like Mizzou could get a win over Ohio State, it's with all this transfer portal business. And honestly, not to take away from Mizzou, I think it's safe to say that Mizzou is overperformed what we all expected them, how they would perform this year. So I think this will be interesting just to see all the implications of this transfer stuff, see which players decide to play in the game. It'll be interesting to see Ohio State without Kyle McCord. And to be honest, it would all be worth it if I just saw Ryan Day got fired the very next day. That's the only reason that's the only reason I think he's still there right now.
I just think it's stupid that they don't have a quarterback to play. So
Now we're gonna go to God. I don't. God, these last two games are so intense. BB, let's go with yours real quick, and then we'll get to the real barn burner of Kyle's pick.
So, I have the Armed Forces Bowl between Air Force and James Madison. And so, if you want to watch a football game in less than about 45 minutes, this is a game for you. James Madison has given up a total of 738 rushing yards this whole season, playing against a team who rushes for 300. So that's best on best right there. And really the only thing I just wanted to the reason I picked this game to point out is that Air Force has had their 14th ever QB to pass over 1,000 yards at 1,005. They've been playing football for like 120 years.
He is also their leading receiver.
Is he really?
No.
Oh God.
I just said no. I was joking.
It would have a
Air
little
That old
delay.
The fact
but
that I had you just
I think James
tell.
Madison. I think James Madison should have been the Group of 5 champion, not Liberty.
Slow down. I'm slurring.
All right, now we're gonna go to Kyle.
Kyle, who said that James Madison wasn't even a real person earlier this year.
I forgot about that.
Show me proof.
Bro, look at
Show
the
me
Declaration of
proof.
Dude, are
Independence.
you joking, Kyle?
I don't know. Am I?
Fourth president, Kyle. James
Okay.
Madison.
We only care about 1, 16, 39, and 43.
Now we're gonna go to Kyle, who's got probably the most interesting pick, interesting bowl game pick, in terms of not really interest in the game, just interesting why he picked it.
Yeah, I got the Cheez-Its Bowl, and these two teams are going to show who's the cheesiest here. We got Iowa versus Tennessee. One atrocious ass offense against one atrocious ass defense. This is about to be the most horrendous. You know what? It's going to be 11-7. Iowa's going to kick 3 field goals, get a safety, and Tennessee gets 1 defensive touchdown with 2 minutes left in the game. This is going to be horrible, and I'm just so excited for it.
Brother, you
this
just
is-
made
this
me
is a
break
win.
my glasses.
Say, this is a win for the country right here.
I woke up
Sometimes
feeling
you can
cheesy
figure
as coach.
Cheese.
Oh man, it's gonna be great.
Kyle, what's the final score of that game?
11-7. Iowa wins.
I was gonna say 11-10.
Yeah.
How do they
If you
score
don't bet
11
the
points?
If you don't
Huh?
bet the under, you're not
2
American.
safeties and a touchdown, defensive touchdown.
I want a good old fashioned 5-7 kind of game. I mean, just and not because there's like just great defenses, just because it's just horrendous. Just
I
fools,
prefer
fucking-
a little TBT.
12 interceptions, just
3-2.
Oh, it's gonna be great. We'll be there.
Okay,
We will not.
we're all right. We're getting out of this segment. NFL. God, we're on the home stretch, guys. Records from this past, huh?
I forgot about NFL. Ooh.
Yeah. Records. Kyle's 31-34. Caleb's 33-32. Nick is 39-26. BB is the only one that has not broken 30 yet at 29-36. And I'm at
Today's
36
the
and
day.
29. Our games this week are Philadelphia at Dallas, the Bills at the Chiefs, the Bucks at the Falcons, the Jaguars at the Browns, and the Vikings at the Raiders. So let's go pick to pick here, starting with Kyle picking Philadelphia versus Dallas.
Yeah, I got Dallas with the win. I think Dallas is really hot right now, and Philly coming off that absolute ass whooping against the 49ers. I don't think they recover. Give me Dallas on this one.
Okay. Caleb.
I'm taking Philadelphia for the exact opposite reason. I probably would have been more inclined to take Dallas, but after Philadelphia just lost this most recent game, I think you got a lot of pissed off Eagles. And I think they show out and they're able to win against Dallas in a close one.
Nick.
And they just signed Shaq Leonard.
Who got cut by the Colts, right?
Yeah, they
Yes.
signed him, but you know
Yeah.
they're trying to fix their problems. So, you know, I think the Eagles are still going to be a fixture, and you know when it comes to the playoff times, they're still going to be a
The
fixture.
Eagles are tired. They're on a 5-game stretch, and it's brutal. It's like the Chiefs, it's the Bills, it's the 49ers, it's the Bills again, or Dallas again, excuse me. And yeah, I think Dallas is going to beat them because Philly is tired. Okay, I've found my limit on
Analysis.
Andy Gators. Yeah, Philly's gonna lose.
BB.
I got Dallas for all the opposite reasons Caleb said.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Dallas too. Dallas has to build up their fan base's hope a little bit more, and that way, when they lose in the first round of the playoffs, it comes crashing
To the
down.
Falcons.
Yeah, to the NFC West champion Falcons. The next game is Buffalo and Kansas City. I'll start. I've got Kansas City. I think the thing I predicted at the beginning of the year and then thought I was wrong about is actually happening. I think the Bills are on a downward slope. So, and I think Kansas City is going to add on to that. They lost a close one to Green Bay, but I mean, Green Bay's playing really hot right now. So yeah, give me Kansas City. BB.
I concur.
Nick.
Kansas City.
Yeah. Yeah. Kansas City.
My God, dude, are you
You
having
having
a
a stroke?
stroke?
I might.
Caleb.
Oh, you owe me a Coke.
Oh, I'm still trying not to laugh hard at thinking about poultry science. But all right, so I'm taking the Bills. I did not like the way KC looked against Green Bay. Yeah, I know Green Bay was I know Green Bay's getting kind of hot right now, and they're definitely going to win out the rest of the year. But I didn't like what I saw. Now, here's the thing. I'm not out on Kansas City. They're still, you know, it's not doom and gloom. I don't think they're going to pull one out from the Bills. The Bills still managed to win a few games in the past, but they could be better. But I'm thinking the Bills are going to be able to edge this one out. It's going to be at Arrowhead. It's going to be odds against them, but the advantage I see is that Kansas City's doing some soul searching, and I think the Bills can take advantage of that.
I don't see Kansas City losing 2 times in a row, so they're going to edge this one out pretty well. Yeah, give me Kansas City.
All right, that moves us to Tampa Bay and Atlanta, and let's have Nick go first on this one. Yeah, go ahead, Nick. We'll save me and BB for last.
Atlanta is going to lose.
No.
All right, Caleb.
Yeah, Tampa Bay. I'm taking Tampa Bay. I mean, I know the Falcons beat my Saints, but that's because my Saints are shitty. So I'm taking Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay, I like their defense. I think Baker Mayfield is a playmaker. And I don't think the Falcons have a playmaker at quarterback. So I'm taking Tampa Bay. Wouldn't be surprised if the score, you know, reached the double digits.
All right, Kyle.
Yeah, give me Tampa. Atlanta
All
sucks.
right.
That's about it.
All right, BB, who do you have this game?
I have the Falcons because, like I've been saying the past month, it's hard to prepare for a quarterback when we don't know who the quarterback is.
All right, well, I'm gonna pick Tampa Bay. It's a home game for me. Tampa Bay playing in Atlanta. So I might actually try to go to that game potentially. But yeah, I think Tampa Bay. I think if the offensive line can continue to, or not continue, but if they can block like they were at the beginning of the season for Baker Mayfield and allow him to get the ball out, I think they've got a strong chance. Jacksonville versus Cleveland. Let's start with Caleb on this one.
So I'm taking Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is. They just announced. I think Etienne's going to be playing in this one. He was activated, so I think they got the weapons to get the win against the Browns. The Browns, they're starting Joe Flacco now. Yeah, because I was watching some cool highlights. You were kind of seeing flashes of the old Joe Flacco during that game. So if I'm a Browns fan, I'm a little happy about that. But you also saw glimpses of the Joe Flacco we all know. So I think Jacksonville's going to be able to take this one from the Browns.
All right. Nick.
Yeah, I'm good now. All right. Jacksonville's going to win because they're on a little stretch and they've found a groove. And the Browns, we talked about their defense a lot, but their defense is starting to slip, honestly. And with that, with the lack of quarterback, and you've got Jerome Ford, who I know Kyle praises to God that he's the next coming of Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt, it's a very lackluster offense, and so I think that's kind of where it's going to go. Is Jacksonville is going to be a little bit too much, so I'm taking Jacksonville.
BB.
I concur.
Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got Jacksonville. Even though Kirk just went down with an injury, I still think they're the better team out of the two. So
Yeah, I don't think this game's close. I think it's going to be a 14-point spread. Plus, again, still having to stick with my guns for my out-of-pocket prediction for the year.
ETN scored.
Yeah, 4-yard touchdown.
Sorry, I'm not on mute.
Final game. Minnesota and Las Vegas, which actually may be probably the most competitive game this week. Let's start. Kyle, who you got?
I got Vegas, baby. I don't trust Minnesota at all. I think they're one of the more up and down teams in the division. I think Vegas is starting to figure it out after they fired their coach, and they haven't looked back since.
Caleb.
All right. So for I'm taking the Raiders as well. They're coming off of a bye week, which I think is going to be to their advantage. Antonio Pierce is really changing the atmosphere in Vegas. I think the players believe in him. I think he has the locker room. Aiden O'Connell is, he's doing the best he can. He's just against the Chiefs, even though they lost 31-17, Aiden O'Connell still had a passer rating of 101.6. And I'm thinking that the Raiders are able to pull this one out. They're able to get a win against the Vikings, who, have been, even though Cousins has been out, they've been kind of on and off.
Yeah. That's kind of the reason why I'm picking them too. I think Minnesota is very unpredictable. But with Las Vegas, I think they kind of like what, or to Kyle's point, I think they kind of have this newfound energy and confidence about themselves with a new coach. And I don't think it's going to be a pretty win. I don't think any Las Vegas game for the rest of the year, at least, is going to be pretty, but I think Las Vegas is going to get a win. Nick.
I think Minnesota's going to win. I think because Josh Dobbs had a bad game, he threw 4 interceptions last week. I think everybody wrote him off, called him they said, all right, the Linsanity is done. I think Josh Dobbs still has the capability of winning them some games. And it's kind of what I was talking about earlier in the season. I don't think Josh Dobbs is a franchise quarterback, but he's a good journeyman. It's going to fill in for people. And I think Josh Dobbs is going to still be that. I think he's going to do just enough to get him a win. And so I think as much as the Raiders want to say they've figured it out, I think the offense is still one step behind, and their defense is still. I mean, they finally got rid of Marcus Peters, and so I think the Raiders are struggling to do what they do currently, and I think Minnesota, after having that bad loss, the ugly loss, not bad. I think they're going to bounce back.
BB.
Give me the Vikings in a Daniel Hunter legacy game, baby.
A legacy game.
Feast. He's gonna eat.
God, I forgot nobody has said legacy game on this episode yet, so I had a way to
Who
sneak
else?
that one in there. All right, well, finally, we get to everybody except for third world countries' favorite segment of the show, Kyle's out-of-pocket pick of the week. Obviously, we don't have any college games this week, so we're going to go to the NFL. So, Kyle, what is your out-of-pocket pick this week?
Yeah, I got one that is just pure spite against our NFL analyst. Give me the Jets beating Houston outright. CJ Stroud is about to get shut down. Might not even throw 100. We'll see. Jets win in an ugly game, 10-7.
Kyle, your integrity, it must be. Your
Ain't got no
integrity is
integrity.
cheaper than a gallon of milk, man.
Damn right.
Like,
Oh, milk's pretty expensive.
As
I was about to say, I don't know.
yeah, that's a good one.
Not up here. It's
Try it again.
$2.70, man.
Well, yeah, but I
I
mean, the
guess.
cheese capital of the world, of course milk isn't going to be expensive.
Yeah. I bought a T-bone steak for $9
Stop.
every day. Slap.
That bitch was pork.
Probably gave you
Shut
mad
up.
cow disease. Next week's episode, you're gonna be drooling all the time. Like,
Hey guys.
Hey, man.
All right.
Oh god.
Well, that
Farm
ends
Sciences, the Farm Sciences episode.
Poultry.
Ultra.
Well,
God,
we've talked about beef and pork. I mean, we at this point we got the whole damn farm.
What about the fish?
definitely taking
Aquaculture.
money line now, Kyle.
Pescatarians.
BB's the jackass.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm gonna
what's
call
new?
South Carolina Gamecocks fans from now on, Pescatarians.
Okay, well,
Except
that's
I'll
going to
call
end the
Kyle
episode.
a Peckatarian.
Whoa. Whoa.
All right, let's end this show. Come on.
Quit. You're throwing me too many softballs. I'm gonna hit one
Yeah,
out of the park
no.
soon. You gotta stop.
Grayson, end the show before I say something.
Yeah, okay, we're done with episode 15.
I'm
Everybody go
gonna
watch us
say it.
on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. Go watch us. That way you can go watch the intro that we're going to add into this episode that's probably already showed. But if you listen to it, go watch it. Go follow us on Twitter and Instagram. You can find them if you just type in JEB board. Other than that, casuals, don't get hard counted.